Hi, Mystery Recapped here today. I'm going to explain a horror sci-fi movie called Species. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens 30 years after the establishment of Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, aka a U.S. government agency whose sole effort is to find evidence of intelligent life on other planets at one of their bases in the middle of an arid desert in Dugway, Utah. A group of scientists are monitoring a young girl named Syl. She wakes up from her sleep and finds herself in a glass containment unit. Several men in hazmat suits surround the structure, and they seem to be preparing for something nearby. The head of this operation, Xavier Fitch, is looking at the preparations. He seems to be extremely somber, as if he is not happy with what's happening. Syl is also puzzled, and her fears only grow when the two lab personnel carrying cyanide tanks enter the room. They begin installing the tanks into inlet pipes of the containment unit. Frightened S looks towards Fitch only to see him whisper, "I'm sorry." He then gives the signal to release the poisonous gas into her unit. However, just as the gas begins to engulf her, Syl uses her brute strength to break one of the glass panels. She then runs to safety while the lab personnel choke on the cyanide gas, which is now seeped out of the containment unit. It is obvious that Syl is no normal human, as she manages to outrun the pursuit military officers as well as trained dogs. Shortly after she gets into a freight train and goes to sleep, Syl is briefly interrupted when a homeless thug appears in the train compartment and tries to assault her, but she grabs his arms and yeets the man on the compartment's walls, killing him on the spot. "That'll teach you to be homeless." Sometime later, Syl gets off at a train station and enters a convenience shop. She observes the people buying groceries with cash and credit cards. She then steals a bag from an unsuspecting woman and boards a passenger train. Once inside, S starts fiddling through the stolen bag, where she finds a small portable TV. A lady conductor soon walks into the compartment to ask for her ticket, but when she notices that Syl is very young, she allows her to only pay half the actual price elsewhere. Fitch discovers the dead body of the homeless man on the freight train. He knows that Syl poses extreme danger if left unguarded and decides to assemble a team to hunt her down. Soon afterwards, his team arrives at the Utah lab for a briefing about their top-secret assignment. It contains an empath, Dan Smithson, who has the ability to sense what happened in a place, anthropologist Dr. Stefan Arden, molecular biologist Dr. Laura Baker, and former Black Ops mercenary Preston Lennox. Back in the passenger train, the female conductor knocks on Syl's compartment due to the loud noise from the portable TV. She gets no answer and enters only to see that the girl is nowhere to be found. The conductor then goes to the bathroom to look for her and comes face to face with a horrifying sight. There is a large cocoon on the wall. Suddenly a tentacle shoots out of it and hooks onto the conductor's neck. Syl, who is now fully grown into an adult woman, emerges out of the cocoon. She then steps over the conductor's lifeless body and leaves the room. Back at the lab, Fitch briefs the team about their covert operation. He reveals that the researchers from SEI had received two messages from an unknown source in 1993. The first message was about a catalyst that would allow the production of infinite amounts of energy from methane. The second message was a sequence of DNA, along with instructions on how to splice it with human genes. As time passed on, government scientists injected this alien DNA sequence into 100 human OVA, and one of those gave birth to Syl. Fitch then shows the team how rapidly Syl grew because she was half human, half alien. He finally reveals that the research team began having apprehensions about the whole experiment. It was then that they decided to end her life by suffocating her in cyanide gas, but now that she has escaped, the team must catch her before she can breed. Sometime later, Fitch and the team arrive in Los Angeles, where they discover the dead conductor on a passenger train. They also see the cocoon in the bathroom and conclude that Sil is probably fully grown by now. Following this, the team settles into a hotel where Fitch reveals that the local authorities have set up a new lab nearby elsewhere in the same city. Sil gets herself a room at a motel and pays with cash that she got from the conductor. Later that night, she asks the receptionist where she could find a man to go on a date with. The latter recommends a club called EY, which is quite popular among the local youngsters. Excellent spot to find an idiot who's not down to wear condoms. Before Sil leaves, the receptionist asks for her credit card and swipes it on the reader. Soon afterwards, Fitch manages to track down the dead conductor's card to the same Hollywood motel where Sil is staying. Meanwhile, inside the club, Sil tries to talk to a man, but her efforts are thwarted by a beautiful blonde woman who approaches him first. Sil watches the two talk and soon notices the blonde going into the bathroom. Taking this as the perfect opportunity, she follows the blonde and brutally murders her by yanking out her spinal cord. That's what you get for going after my man. After a while, the team arrives at the motel and learns that Sil had left for a club named ID. Earlier that evening, they soon reach the establishment only to discover a dead woman in the bathroom. They learn from the bouncer that a woman matching Sil's description left with a regular visitor named Robbie. I'll swear if Robbie takes Sil to his house and tries to get intimate with her in the bathroom, he is sensually touching her when she suddenly becomes uneasy and tells him to drive her back to the club. An irritated Robbie insists on having intercourse with her. You wasted my time. So she caves. They begin kissing each other until Silk clinches Robbie's head and thrusts her tongue through his skull. Sometime later, the team arrives at Robbie's place and sees him lying on the ground. Preston notices that the man is still wearing his pants and concludes that he couldn't have gotten intimate with Sil. Now that's a detective. Meanwhile, Laura finds an insulin bottle in the trash and concludes that Sil rejected him because he's diabetic. On the other hand, the half-alien, half-human goes back to the motel, but when she notices several police cars outside, she quickly drives away. The following day, Sil wakes up on the beach after dreaming about meeting with another alien. She drives away, but the car soon runs out of fuel and she is forced to leave behind. As Sil walks the street, a man on a skateboard, Cat, calls her not paying attention to the road. This causes an oncoming car to swerve violently and it ends up hitting Sil. Thankfully, a young businessman named John Carver, who is passing through the same street, helps her and takes her to a hospital. Back at the lab, Fitch receives a call and learns that Robbie's car was found abandoned in Santa Monica. At the hospital, JN pays for S's medical bill with his own credit card, but the doctors are stunned to see the woman heal at an insane rate. Before they can question her, she gets up and walks to the lobby where she finds John. This news soon reaches our team, who have been inspecting Robbie's car. Laura and Preston quickly stopped by the hospital and confirm that their target was there. After talking to the doctor, they asked the receptionist for any information about the man who brought her in. The team eventually gets the credit card info and manages to track down John's address. Meanwhile, John has brought the beautiful Sil to his home and they have gotten in the hot tub. The duo is having a lovely chat when Preston and Laura suddenly arrive at the house. They knock at the front door and an irritated John tries to answer, but S grabs his arm and says they need to make a baby right now. John is shocked by the proposal and tries to get out of the hot tub, but this only enrages Sil and she begins to morph into her alien form. She then holds John down in the hot water and inserts her tentacle in his mouth. In some cultures this is hot, and until he drowns to his death. Shortly after, Laura and Preston enter the house and start looking around for any clues. They soon get to the tub and find John's dead body. Unbeknownst to them, Sil, who is changed back into her human form, is walking nearby without any clothes on. She soon sees a woman getting into a car. nearby and quickly rushes to the spot Sil then abducts the woman, takes her clothes and throws her in the back seat. The following day she wakes up at the woman's house and cuts her own thumb using a pair of scissors. Still careful, Y packs her thumb in a bag and soon regenerates the missing finger. She then cuts the innocent woman's thumb and throws it into the garbage can outside the house. Following this, S drives to a gas station and fills up 2 containers with fuel. She then steals another vehicle and transfers the gas containers from the abducted woman's car. That very night, S goes back to ID, the club she had visited a few days ago. She knowingly appears to Dan, who wastes no time in alerting his team. Sil then rushes to her car and drives it out of the parking lot with the abducted one woman still in the passenger seat. Meanwhile, Preston and Laura chase after her with 2 helicopters following them. When the chase reaches a dead end, S drives off a steep hill and jumps out of the car at the last second. The vehicle keeps going until it hits an electrical power transformer and explodes with the kidnapped woman inside. In the aftermath, one of the choppers blasts the car with 2 missiles to make sure that Sil doesn't survive. They're completely unaware that the alien has devised the whole thing to fake her death. She is still at large and desperately wants to find a mate soon enough. An agent reveals that they found a severed thumb in the vehicle. He then decides to take it to the lab for testing. Meanwhile, Sil goes back to the woman's house and begins to change the way she looks, starting from the hair color. On the other hand, the team goes back to the hotel to celebrate their success. Laura invites Preston to dance and flirtily says that she wants to keep seeing him, but Preston is soon distracted by a blonde woman who looks a lot like Sil. He approaches the stranger and grabs her arm, only to see that she is not actually Sil. Witnessing this, an irritated Laura stresses that the alien is dead. She reveals that the test results of the thumb came out and it proves that Sil was the one who crashed in the car earlier, but unbeknownst to Laura, Sil, who has now completely changed her appearance, is present in the hotel. In fact, she is closely monitoring Preston as he appears to be a good mate for her. Soon afterwards, Laura tells the team that she is going to bed. Prawn also follows her and the two get ready for some B action, but they are completely unaware that they are being watched by the alien. Sil is actually in the adjacent room pretending to be a housekeeping maid. She listens through the wall as Laura and Preston make love. In other cultures, this is also hot. Moments later, Steven arrives in the room and finds Sil there, although he doesn't recognize her. Before he can question how she got there, Sil quickly seduces him. She starts kissing Stefan and him onto the bed. Meanwhile, Dan, who is heading back to the room, suddenly senses that Sil is around. He stops by Stefan's room and perceives that Sil is copulating with his friend. If being an empath does anything, it's letting you know when your boy's getting laid. He then anxiously knocks on the door, only to find a shirtless Preston waiting for him. In the meantime, after finishing their intercourse, Sil tells Stefan that she already feels something inside her womb pillow talk. The ladder laughs at her, but she takes his hand and lets him feel her belly. To his utter shock, Stefan feels a baby growing there and soon realizes that he is with Sil, or a woman who is already pregnant. Before he can do anything, the half-alien covers his mouth and suffocates him to death. When the team finally arrives at the door, Sil gets out of the room through the wall. This prompts them to chase her with flamethrowers and other high-tech weapons. Their pursuit brings them to a tunnel that is located beneath the hotel's garage. They soon see an open maintenance hole and blast it with a flamethrower before going inside. However, the team quickly reaches an intersection with several possible paths. They then split up into smaller groups and go different ways to locate their target as soon as possible. A few minutes later, Fitch suddenly notices bubbles brewing up in a pool of water. He cautiously approaches it to have a closer look, when suddenly S emerges and yanks him inside. What did he think was going to happen when the rest of The team reaches the area. Fitch is already dead. The group, however, continues to search while S hides. On the Herhad pipes they find no trace of their target and pass right by her hiding place. None of them have any clue as Syl quietly jumps down and swims away. Shortly afterwards she reaches a cavern and finally gives birth. She then leaves her baby behind so that she can locate the humans and kill them. In the meantime, Dan, who has sensed some strange energy in the cavern, reaches the spot and sees a small boy moving. He tries to find a way to reach for it when suddenly the child shoots its tongue out, causing Dan to fall off. Seconds later, Laura makes her way to rescue Dan, but she slips and falls into a nearby pool of oil. The child then morphs into its alien form and Det attacks Dan, but he bravely shoots it with a flamethrower. This causes the alien to fall into the pool where it burns to its death. At this moment, Syl emerges from nearby and shrieks as she sees her child burning. As she's distracted, Laura gets out of the pool and rescues Dan from his predicament. Meanwhile, the rest of the team arrives on the spot and Syl quickly grabs Prest with her tentacles, but he manages to cut it with a knife and gets ready to face the alien. Before Syl can reach him, Preston shoots her multiple times until she falls into the oil pool, which is now ablaze with fire. Using this opportunity, Laura and Preston pull Dan up from the rock. He almost reaches safety when suddenly S grabs his foot using her tentacles. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Preston, the badass, steps up. He holds on to Dan with one hand and loads a shotgun with the other. He then tells Dan to D _ and savagely blows off Syl's head, finally killing her. After the group leaves the cave, a rat starts gnawing on Syl's severed tentacles. Moments later, it starts to mutate and attacks another rat with its tongue. Thank you for watching.